Apartment blocks built in the Khrushchev and Brezhnev eras still stand, recalling industrial modernization and unfinished urban transformations. Most housing estates consist of gray 5-story or 9-story concrete blocks that dominate the landscape and strip the city of a friendly character. Building facades are peeling and thermal insulation practically does not exist, which exacerbates problems with retaining heat and residents' comfort. Stairwells are scuffed, covered in graffiti, and often smell of urine, which underscores the neglect of shared spaces and the lack of administrative care. Lifts break down for months. They are old and dirty, causing residents of the higher floors to lose daily mobility and a sense of security. A lack of parking spaces forces people to park on lawns and pavements, which degrades the space and increases neighbor disputes over territory. Playgrounds are a few rusty swings from the 1980s where children play in conditions that are not always safe and are neglected. Many courtyards have turned into makeshift rubbish dumps because the waste management system is often inefficient and neglected by local authorities. The streets between the blocks are perpetually crowded and dusty, which worsens air quality and takes away residents' ability to relax outdoors. In winter, snow lies for weeks, creating muddy drifts and preventing pedestrians and vehicles from moving efficiently around the estate. Communal flats are the norm in many dwellings, where several families share living space and privacy becomes an unattainable luxury. The shared kitchen generates constant quarrels over pots and kettles because communal use of appliances leads to daily disputes. One bathroom often serves 10 to 15 people, so morning queues and tensions become a routine part of daily life. Small rooms of about 9 to 12 square meters per family force people to live in cramped conditions with little intimacy. Drafty windows let frost into apartments in winter, forcing tenants to use additional stoves and improvised insulation and to cover panes with plastic. Outdated electric or gas heaters can be dangerous, increasing the risk of fires and poisoning in cramped, poorly ventilated flats. Damp and mold on the walls are common in apartments, which harms the health of children and the elderly and worsens families' living comfort. Crowding means children often sleep in a single bed and adults use the living room as a bedroom, disrupting family rhythms and privacy. Many residents do not have hot water, only cold tap water, which makes maintaining hygiene difficult and poses additional challenges for daily tasks. Neighbors know almost everything about one another because privacy practically does not exist and life unfolds on display through thin doors and windows. Theft of bicycles and prams from stairwells is widespread, undermining the sense of security and increasing distrust among tenants. Alcohol is consumed in stairwells and bottles pile up in corners, symbolizing a social crisis and the lack of spaces for safe socializing. Aggressive dogs run around yards off-leash, threatening children and the elderly, and weak control of owners deepens the safety problem. Older women, called babushkas, observe everything from windows and stairwells, acting as social guardians and chroniclers of estate life. Noise in the housing estates is a daily reality. Drills, drunken brawls, and shouting children create a backdrop that rarely allows for rest. The lack of a lift prevents older people from leaving apartments on the 9th floor, which keeps them housebound and deepens social isolation. Basements are full of rats and stray cats, and the sanitary conditions beneath the building foster disease and maintain the degradation of shared spaces. Moonshine production sometimes takes place in basements, indicating residents' economic desperation and risky survival practices. Housing estates concentrate poverty and frustration, creating an environment in which anger and despair easily turn into social problems. Alcoholism is ubiquitous. Drinking begins in the morning and morning shots become a ritual that destroys opportunities for change and employment. Family quarrels echo across the entire floor because crowding and economic stress intensify conflicts while formal support is limited. Older women sell cigarettes and drinks from car boots or on benches, supplementing meager incomes and creating a local informal market. Young people spend time in stairwells drinking cheap beer or wine, which reinforces patterns of unproductive leisure among peers. The police rarely respond, and housing estates are sometimes treated as law-free zones, which reinforces a sense of impunity and danger for residents. Quarrels over drying rooms, laundry, and small resources are everyday occurrences because infrastructural limitations cause minor disputes to escalate quickly. Many people live next to neighbors for 30 years without knowing their names, which shows the degree of alienation and the erosion of neighborly ties. The housing community can be a fiction. No one cares for repairs and shared matters because there is a lack of money, trust, and effective management mechanisms. Luxury apartment towers spring up next to old blocks, and the contrast between new and old is striking and intensifies the sense of social injustice. Those who can afford to leave flee to detached houses outside the city seeking peace and security, which causes further social segregation. Young people dream of moving out because housing estates have become synonymous with poverty and limited life and career opportunities for a generation of aspirants. Authorities promise revitalization and demolitions, but these promises are rarely fulfilled, leaving residents in a state of waiting and resignation. For many families, the block is the only roof over their heads, so despite hardships and lack of prospects, people stay and build their lives on the same ground. Older generations have become accustomed to the conditions and explain that it has always been this way, which shows adaptation and the entrenchment of a narrative of no change. Housing estates hold memories of childhood, yard games, and first friendships, which gives them a multidimensional, ambivalent social role. Some estates are slowly turning into slums as infrastructural degradation meets a lack of investment and the migration of the most active residents. To an outside observer, the housing estates are symbols of Russian poverty, urban neglect, and the consequences of flawed housing policies.